friends, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're doing well today. Today I woke up in sort of a weird mood. I'm in like a vanilla ice cream kind of mood, like kind of just plain and blah. So what better than to go through the things that I bought in Halifax and on my recent Canada trip to Quilt Canada. Hopefully that will bring up my mood a little bit to look at all the pretties that I got. Now I didn't get a whole lot because obviously I had to put it in my suitcase and get it back home. But I got a few things that make me happy, so I'm hoping that it's going to bring my mood up a little bit. And I also wanted to show you guys how to sew with vinyl because I've had a lot of questions, people asking me how you sew on vinyl to like make a project bag or a small like zipper pouch for like pens and pencils or smaller notions like a rotary cutter. So I'm going to do that today. So let's get started, and I hope that with showing you guys my haul and making this little video, maybe by the end I'll be back to my shiny happy self. All right, let's get started with the haul. Okay, like I said, I didn't get a whole lot in at Quilt Canada because I knew I had to get it back, right? And you're only allowed so much luggage and so much space, and it can't be heavier. And I learned that lesson the hard way. Last year when I went to Quilt Market in Houston, and I way overstuffed my suitcase, and then I ended up having to pay the overweight fee on the way back. So I was really good. I controlled myself. If I had driven, it might have been a different story, because there was definitely a few things that I left on the shelf that I wish I would have purchased, but it's okay. There's always more fabric and always more things to do, and it's not like I don't already have enough things to do. So all right, so I'm going to start with thread. Wonderfill was there, and I'm not a huge fan of Wonderfill. I know there are people are. I know Stephen of Bland Designs and the Idiot Quilter loves Wonderfill. I'm not a huge lover of Wonderfill, but they do have some specialty threads that I really do like. And I like their pearl cottons, and these I like to use for cross stitch. So I got one of each of the red, white, and blue. I really love how these stitch up. They're so pretty and they're really, really soft. So I got those because I really been doing a lot of red, white, and blue projects lately, and I kind of want to do a cross stitch project. So got that. And then the other thing I got for Wonderfill is they have these two little specialty threads, which I'd never seen before. So I was glad to find these. One is called an iron infuse and one is called a rinse and gone. So this one, the rinse and gone, they're both like in white, right? The rinse and gone, you use if you need something placed temporarily, like basting stitches or things like that, because obviously, as the name suggests, as soon as you wash it, it goes away. Now the iron infused one, I found this one to be the most intriguing. I've never seen this before. I thought this might be really good for binding, because you could do it on the one side, right? If you're a machine binder like I am, stitch with it on the one side, and then when you flip your, because I always iron my binding over and then flip it and then stitch it on the other side. This might make it interesting to when you flip over the binding when you're ironing it down. Can you imagine that's gonna stick? And I thought that's really clever. So that I'm gonna try for binding. The next thing I bind, I'm gonna use this and see how well that does, because that'll eliminate, if it will actually stick when I flip over the binding and iron it down, that will eliminate having to wonder clip all the way around. So I'm all for taking shortcuts if they're good shortcuts. So hopefully that'll work. So I'm really excited to try that. One thing I did get, which I didn't purchase, they had Northcott Fabrics had a display there. I think it was Northcott or one of the divisions of Northcott. I get confused because Northcott, and there's a bunch of fabric companies within the same, under the same umbrella. Anyway, they had a corner booth, and they had a thing, if you signed up for their newsletter, you could spin this wheel, kind of like Wheel of Fortune type thing, and you'd get a prize. And the one gal who was with us, she actually won a whole fat quarter bundle, which that was amazing. But the rest of us, I think, myself and Stephen both won a fat quarter, and Walter won some scraps, which he promptly handed to Stephen. And I'm glad he didn't hand them to me because I don't like scraps. But I got this fat quarter, and it's really pretty. I love the colors, so I was really excited to get that. So that was a freebie. The next couple things I have, I actually bought for other people. My good friend Shannon Way of Slay Arts, she had asked me to check out and see if I could get this kit for her, this applique kit from Art East Quilting Company. And they're out of Canada. And John, the designer, was actually there in the booth, so I got to meet him. But she really loves puffins. And they had some, speaking of which, they had some gorgeous puffin quilts. So if you haven't seen my video on Quilt Canada, it's back a few days, but you should go watch it. You can see all the quilts, and there's a puffin quilt in there that I was like, oh, Shannon's gonna love this, and I actually sent her a picture. But she really wanted this applique kit, and you can't find it in the States. So I picked this up for her. It's really cute. So I can't wait to get that on its way to her. I actually need to find out if she wants me to send it or bring it, because I'm going to see her in a couple months. But really, really cute. And I was happy to pick that up for her. So the other thing that I picked up, which I wasn't expecting to pick up, is Stephen had made a quilt with these panels, and he calls it the quilt from hell too. Not because of the panels or the fabric, but because the designer of the pattern, because the pattern was poorly designed, and unfortunately the finished sizes listed in the pattern are not what the finished size end up being, so he had to finagle things to make it work, and it was just kind of a nightmare for him. So anyway, in the pattern it talks about using the panel for this fabric line, and so he had the panel and he was like, this isn't right, this isn't right. Well, come to find out, this fabric line had 2 panels, but that was failed to mention in the pattern. So when we were there, we actually found both of the panels. So I think Stephen bought them. And then one of my subscribers and friends who I met last year at my Washington retreat in person, balloonist, her real name's Mona. She's from Arizona, and she's like, oh, I would love to have those panels. So guess what, Mona? I got them for you. They're really pretty. I got you one of each. So I'm really excited that I can bring those to her. I'm going to see her here in August. So I'm going to take these out to her. But they're really, really cute. So I'm happy that I could get those in, because you can't find those in the States. So the next thing that I got was a kit. And I am not even going to attempt to pronounce the name. I will just show you guys. This is the name of the company. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce it because I know I'm going to say it wrong, and I don't want to get lambasted for saying it wrong. But these are all African batiks, which I had never seen in person before. I've heard about them. I've seen them online, but it's different when you see stuff in person. So my impression of African fabrics, while they're gorgeous, I don't typically like the colors. They're usually very bold with a lot of browns thrown in, and I don't like brown. You guys know that. But when we went to this booth, they had a kit, or they had a sample quilt on the wall that was all blue and white. And I was like, yes, please. And it was a really simple quilt. I'll show you guys right here. It's just a half square triangle quilt. But I was like, that's gorgeous. Where can I get that? Well, they had a kit, so I got the kit. And the only disappointing thing is that the sample had a white background, right? And with the kit, they included like a cream, and you probably can't tell that it's cream unless I would hold it against something. What? Here's a white. There, you might be able to tell now. So this is white and this is cream. So it was a little disappointing that they included this muslin cream, and it's muslin. So it's really inexpensive, thin, sorry, cheapy stuff that you would get at like the J Word, the big box store. So this is something that I wouldn't even normally quilt with. This is something that I would use for practice stuff. Sorry if you use this stuff, but that's just me. So I won't be using this, but I'll keep it for scrap fabric for something if I need, or if I want to do like some crazy blocks or something where you sew the fabric to muslin squares, that would be perfect. But I won't use it for this because this African fabric was not cheap. And so it's disappointing that they included cheap background fabric to go with it. But that being said, I still love the batiks, the blue batiks, and they're gorgeous. These batiks you do have to pre-wash. They come with, they're already been, sizing has been put into them, so they're stiff like as a board. Like they're stiff like cardboard. Like that's how stiff they are. Like it feels like cardboard right now. But the only thing you have to do is you have to soak them in warm water and then hang dry them. You can put them in the washing machine, but if you do, they recommend serging the edges first so they don't come all unraveled and crazy looking. Which I was a little nervous about that because they didn't say not to put them in the washing machine. They just said pre-wash them. But then Walter, who actually was in the booth too, did some research, and he figured out that it'd be better to soak them and hang dry them instead of washing in the washing machine. So I'm grateful that he looked into that. So I'll show you those. Here's the first one. There's the second one. And I know these don't look like batiks, but they are. They're African batiks. And each one is just as pretty as the last one. So there's the first bit. Here's some more. And I can't wait to use them. I mean, the color. But I definitely will be putting these with a white. I just don't know if I'm going to put them with a white or if I'm going to put them with, I think they might look really good with a grunge white. So here's the next ones. Just because the grunge has a little bit of movement to it. So it might look really good with this. I'm not sure. But so that was the main thing that I bought. The main thing I spent a bunch of money on, and the thread. And that's really it. The only other things that I got, and these were presents, was from Cheryl Curley. She brought me a fat quarter bundle of Island Batiks. And I'm not going to take them all out, take it apart, but all blues and greens, colors that I love. So I was really grateful to get that. But my favorite thing that I got from the entire thing was from my friend Steven. Now, he is so generous. He brought gifts for everybody, all the people we met at the meet and greet, for Cheryl, for myself, and he had made everybody something on his 3D printer, which was really cool because that stuff takes hours and hours. I mean, and he just gave us all that stuff. So really nice of him. And that to me was already above and beyond. Now, he sent me that stuff after his retreat in May, because he was afraid that it would either take up too much space in my suitcase or break on the way home. Because 3D printer stuff, it's plastic, it can break, it's hard plastic. And I am glad that he sent it to me, because now looking at it, I would be afraid with the way they throw bags that they would have broken it. And I don't think I could have fit it on my carry-on to go on the plane. So really grateful that he sent it to me. But so most of the people at the meet and greet got the little thimble trash can, which you guys have already seen, or scrap bucket, and some of the other little things that he makes, like the seam ripper, the gnome seam ripper, and the little canister with the jar with the closable lid. But he also made everybody a bag. He went so far above and beyond. It's crazy. And he even made some for friends of people that were coming that didn't even know him. So that's how generous he is. But this is the bag that I got. And I believe he made these for just his subscribers. And then the extra people that came, he made them kind of a plainer bag, but embroidered a tag saying like his name and all that stuff on it. But this is so cute. I just love it. It says, "The Idiot Quilter. I'm sexy and I know it." So this is my favorite thing from Quilt Canada. It means the world to me, especially because I know that Steven made it for me. So I really appreciate that. Thank you, Steven. And like I said, the best part of Quilt Canada was meeting Steven and Walter in person. The show was amazing. There were some beautiful quilts, so I'm glad I got to go. But meeting friends, there's nothing better than meeting friends, especially that you've never met in person before. So that was my haul from Quilt Canada. Will I go back next year? I don't know yet. Verdict's still out. We'll see. I really liked it, but I just don't know if I'm going to have the time or, all that kind of stuff. It's a year away. So that's it for the haul. So next I'm going to get set up and show you how to sew a little vinyl pouch. So right here I have my vinyl. I know it's kind of hard to see. I've got the paper underneath it, so you can see that. When you get vinyl at a big box store, it'll come on a roll and you get it by the half yard, whatever you need. And it usually has this paper in between the layers to keep the layers from sticking. Now, a lot of times those big box stores, they'll take this paper off and just throw it away, or roll it back up on the roll with the rest of the vinyl. If this paper is part of your cut, I would ask for this, because this is like tissue paper. Okay, and this is how you're going to sew vinyl without a special foot. Now, if you are somebody who sews a lot of vinyl for, say you're making things to sell for craft shows or whatever, you might want to invest in what they call a nonstick or a Teflon foot. But for somebody like me who doesn't make them but maybe a couple times a year, I don't like to buy things that are only good for one thing. And the Teflon feet, at least for my machine, is really expensive. And so I think it's really silly to buy a thing that I might use maybe once or twice a year. Because anything that has to do with sewing is marked up. You guys know. Anyhow, so you can buy that foot if you're somebody who sews on vinyl all the time. It might make sense. But if you're not, and you're somebody like me who just makes a little bag here and there, this is how you can sew on vinyl without having a non-stick foot. Do you need a special needle? Because I know that question is coming next. I don't use a special needle. I just use my regular 80-12 needles with the Microtex tip, so they're sharp. And then after I'm done sewing vinyl, I will replace my needle. So I've had this needle in my machine now for a little bit, so it needs replacing anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this project bag, and then I'm going to replace the needle. No need to get a new needle out. The Microtex pierce smaller holes, and so I don't feel the need to get a new needle. But after that, I wouldn't sew a whole nother quilt project with this needle. So good timing, since I need to change it anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this paper. I cut the vinyl. I left the paper on when I cut the vinyl, so it's the same size as the paper. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to attach my side pieces, and I'm going to leave that paper on. So I'm going to just lay this right on top, leave the paper on, and for those of you who have tried and know already, if you take this off and you lay the vinyl on your machine anywhere in here, unless you've got one of those non-stick sheets that you can use for free motion quilting, which if you do, then great, you're in good shape. But if you don't, if you leave the paper on, that'll keep this vinyl from sticking. If you take it off, as you're pushing this through, you're going to get, especially on this side of your machine, the vinyl's going to stick, and even it can stick to your feed dogs or the bottom of your presser foot. So that's the need for leaving the paper on. But it's just like paper piecing. So we're going to stitch this. I'm going to stitch just a 1/4 inch, just like I do everything else that I stitch in quilting. And I'm going to turn my stitch length down just a smidge to about 1.5 or 1.8, somewhere in there. I have a mechanical machine, so I don't have exact numbers. And then I'm just going to start stitching. Now vinyl, you can't, once you've made the hole, you've made the hole. You can't, you can pick stuff out, but you're probably going to have to make the vinyl smaller and like rip, if you have to rip stuff out, because the more holes you poke, the more likely it's going to fall apart. So it's kind of a one-time shot thing. But I just sew down the side as usual, and you can see, because I've got the fabric on top and I've got the paper on the bottom, that didn't stick at all, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and sew this other side before I even think about taking this paper off. And I don't have a pattern, I'm just making this little bag up as I go. I've done a lot of vinyl bags over the years, so this one's just going to be like a little thing to put maybe scissors or a rotary cutter in. I like these clear front bags because you can see what's inside. Okay, so I've got that one done too. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this off just like you do paper piecing. So I'm going to pull this paper off. And now this side should be pretty well free. Okay, I'm going to try to keep this intact as much as possible, so when I do this edge, I've got paper still. I'm going to pull this side off. The smaller your stitches, the easier it is to take off. The only scary part is if you make a mistake, the smaller your stitches, you're not probably going to be able to stitch that vinyl, so you're going to have to start over a new piece of vinyl or just cut it down and make it smaller. Okay, so now that I've got that off, I'm not going to stitch on top of this paper, but I'm going to lay it underneath this vinyl because I'm going to go back and top stitch on these to hold these down where I want them. So I'm going to lay that paper just under the vinyl, but not under where I'm sewing because I don't want to sew on the paper again. This will just keep my vinyl from sticking to everything. It does take a minute to line up so you're not getting on your paper. It's okay, go slow. Okay, I've got that side top stitch down, and now I'm going to do the same thing on the other. Okay, got that side top stitch down. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this paper back on here as best I can, down along the bottom, and you can clip this if you want. Don't pin through vinyl. You can clip it with wonder clips if you like, if that helps you. And then I'm going to lay my bottom piece here, and I know it's not as long as this. I cut these a little larger than they needed to be. But I'm going to lay my bottom piece here. Bringing the paper and everything over here. And so. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing I did before and peel this up, trying to preserve this because we have one more piece to add onto the vinyl. Okay, I just need to top stitch this down first. And you can do it without vinyl, or you can do it without the paper. I'm going to show you how here. So what you have to do is just keep lifting this up if you don't have the paper. The other thing you can use if they didn't give you the paper is if you've got some tissue paper around your house that you use for present wrapping, that'll work as well. But you can do this too. It's just fussier because you have to hold the vinyl up. Because if you keep it down, it will stick to your machine and won't go through as well. But you can do what I just showed you. It's just more of a stinker that way. All right, so that's that. Now I have one more thing to add, and that is the top of this little bag. So I'm going to flip this over, and this is my zipper side. Just pick the paper up. I'm going to add the paper underneath again. So I put the paper, and then there's the vinyl in between, and then I'm putting this stuff with the zipper here. Or this piece with the zipper here. Okay, just keep that paper, and now that we're at the end, I don't care if it sticks over a little bit. But keep that paper under there, it'll slide so much easier. Again, if you like, you can wonder clip that. I just held it. Worked out just fine. So now I can just rip this off. Take the paper off. And then I'm going to top stitch this here again. Again, I'm going to put the paper underneath because it's easier than lifting this up the whole time. And then there we go. And it's all, the vinyl's all installed. So I'm just going to trim this up and put it together with the piece that I made for that goes inside and will become my backing. And then I'll have a little bag. Okay, here's my bag all done. You see the vinyl front, and I've got my rotary cutter and my scissors in there, and obviously there's room to fit more things. These bags are really nice to take on retreats or any kind of sew day anywhere. And the clear front allows you really easily to see what's in front. So I don't have a pattern tutorial on this. I just took some vinyl, measured the size I wanted, put some fabric strips around all the sides, and of course installed the zipper. You guys saw me do that. And then I made the backing out of soft and stable and 2 layers of fabric. So you can make them any size you want, play around with it. The main idea of this was not to give you guys a pattern, but to show you how to sew vinyl, because I know some of you have asked me, which I appreciate. If there's anything else you'd like to see or see a tutorial on, I'd love to do that for you. So put that in the comments down below. A few things coming up. I have the 2-color quilt challenge on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday night, June 20th at 6 p.m. live. Shannon from Slate Arts will be right here on my channel. I'm looking forward to that, and I know a lot of you are as well, so I can't wait for that. And then the following week, June 26th, that's going to be the start of the next Fort Worth Fabric Studio Sew Along Simply Summer. So I'll hope you join me for that. Otherwise, I'll see you in other videos, and take care and have a wonderful week. Bye!